my beautiful beings. So we're gonna wait a few minutes for Caley to pop in. Today, hey Caley. So today we are talking all about loving the temple, so practices and rituals, cultivation of self-love. And just so excited to dive into this conversation. Hi, my dear.
Let me flip. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Really good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
That's my pleasure. I'm very happy to be here.
So I just have to check in. How are you? How are you doing during this wild time?
You know what? I know it sounds weird, but I've actually loved this time. It has been challenging sometimes in terms of relationship. I've moved in with my partner, and I think quarantine and being inside all day can put stress on partnership and communication in that regard. But
Totally.
It's also been such a good area to grow, and we work from home. Kind of. This is kind of my realm already. So it's like, welcome to my realm, everyone else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally feel that too, and that whole dynamic with your partner and like navigating working from home and boundaries and communication and like the flow. So the two different rhythms coming together.
Yeah. Yes.
It's such a dance, isn't it?
It is. It truly is. Yeah. Yeah. You guys got it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like work and life, all other parts of life they're not separate. They're totally together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to have you here for our meditation medicine conversation. And for those of you tuning in, this discussion style workshop is really all about conscious conversations and talking about meditation and really the meditation of life in a way that helps us to see that we possess such powerful medicine within us in all different ways. And part of the birthing of today's topic, loving the temple, was inspired by Caley's work in the world, and I love what you're sharing with humans and with your community and with everybody that's tuning into you, Caley, the yoga nidras and the conscious connection with self and the emphasis on self-love. And so, I'm just pumped to dive into this conversation because I think, a lot of people are intending to cultivate self-love, but what does that actually mean? And how does that translate into our day-to-day life? But before we jump into all of that juiciness, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your work, what guided you into this moment on your journey, and we'll flow from there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. We actually got to sit on a panel at a Tune Festival last year, and hearing you talk was really beautiful for me. I got to learn a lot more about you and what you offer, and so I'm really excited to be here today. So a little bit about me. In a nutshell, I teach Yoga Nidra, and it's a meditation practice, and I infuse astrology with my nidras, so they're very potent. It's all about, it's a very subtle blending of astrology. So if you're not into astrology, you don't even really notice that it's there. But I weave in the current themes of that into the practice. And what I love about this meditation practice, and Nidra in particular, is that it gives us the opportunity to create really transformative healing in a very short amount of time. So, for instance, have you heard of Joe Dispenza's work?
Yeah.
So I've trained with Joe Dispenza as well, and basically what he teaches is Nidra, which is pretty fucking cool. Excuse my French.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Just incredible. And, so Nidra is very similar in that regard. What it does is it gives us access to the energetic frequencies of transformation, whatever that is for you, right? So your body goes into such a relaxed place that your subconscious mind is still taking in information, but the body's so relaxed and so safe that you're able to access any frequency and pull it into from the 5D to the 3D and really manifest that with great emotion. And so you can affect change in an instant in Nidra. And my partner in particular has or had PTSD. He was in the war for many years. He was in the British military, and to see the effect that nidras had on him is spectacular. It's amazing. So I know from firsthand experience what it can really do for someone who has something like that. And then, obviously from myself, I see the benefits of it. But I do that, and I also lead a mentorship program. I help women be successful entrepreneurs in the wellness space, and I teach yoga. I have a lot of digital content.
Amazing. Yeah, I love the name of your mentorship. Isn't it called Make Wealthy Moves?
It is. Yeah. And actually today is our spring cohort launched this morning. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
I do think like the intersection of, wellness and leadership, and especially women who are stepping into their own dharma, that's a much needed area of focus. So when I saw you putting that out there, I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, for sure. And so, it's interesting because when I was with you at Attune in 2019, there was this energetic synergy. I was like, this woman, she is teaching yoga in a different way. And so I love what you shared about your work and your studies with Joe Dispenza, and that ability to access the 5D when the body is so safe. So I'm curious, what has been your experience with that work? Like, what guided you into that space as someone who is a yoga teacher?
Yeah, I think as most, I got into yoga for more for the physicality of it. I was in San Francisco at the time. I was in a marriage that I was unhappy in, and so I just kind of started practicing for fun. And then I started teaching, and one thing led to another. I'm teaching in LA full time, and I always say that I followed the good feels. So yoga just kind of found me, and it felt good, and I kept going down that direction. And throughout the process of practicing yoga, oftentimes we go for the workout, but we inevitably get this work in, and that can be shocking sometimes because we don't expect it. And I got the work in, and it was really profoundly impactful for me, going through divorce and moving to a new city, and all these different phases of life. I was in my Saturn return, and so meditation came through yoga, and I first went to Vipassana. Actually, I did a 10-day silent sit, and
amazing.
I had the most transformational experience of my life. I mean, to date, it was incredible and profound, and it just really impactful. And so I just jumped down the hole. I did a meditation training with Johnny Pollard from One Giant Mind. I learned the transcendental mantra technique. I went and studied with them. And then I did my Yoga Nidra training, and I've trained with Joe Dispenza. So every year I do something new. I like learning, and I like collecting tools from my tool belt. And what's really beautiful is all these different modalities, they're teaching the same thing, just with different words. Joe's teaching Kundalini. He teaches how to breathe from your base chakra to your root. And so it's all the same, and it's all beautiful.
It is all beautiful. It's like different doors into the same house, right? And we can access the different doors, and each door is its own beautiful entryway, and we can learn from all of those entryways. And I love that, because I saw that recently you did some Kundalini training. Is that right?
I also did Kundalini. Yeah, that was my last year's teacher training. One a year. Yeah.
So being a perpetual student sounds like that's been such a prominent part of your journey, and continuing to learn and absorb. And
it has.
Yes.
Yeah, it keeps me inspired, and I like integrating each, like, little bits of these things into each other. I like blending it all, like swirling chocolate and vanilla ice cream together. It's
love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Vegan coconut ice cream, of course.
of course. So, Caley, because I think, when it comes to self-love, a lot of clients that I work with, whether they're individual clients or students that sit with me in different groups and workshops, this idea of loving ourselves is something that most of us are really yearning for at a deep level. And many, however, I come and say that they have no idea where to start. And what does that even mean? And I think, everyone has their own way of connecting with themselves, and different practices resonate with different people. But what role does self-love play in your own practice, and how does that come through when you are teaching and sharing some of these wisdom teachings with your students?
I mean, if you look at my website, that's what I'm all about, is love and self-love. I, for a long time, didn't have it. I punished myself for things that I did, and not consciously punished myself, subconsciously, you know, like going into a relationship that was terrible, and I knew it was, but I was there because I thought that I needed that. So love and self-love has been my journey and my process and my lesson over and over again. And, you know, it's something that I teach in my yoga classes. It's something that I teach in my mentorship program. And wherever I am, it's the foundation for pretty much everything. And self-love, you know, for me, you have to be able to hear it first. We have two seats of intuition in the body. We have the heart and the belly. And I teach this in yoga. So accessing your seats of intuition first. So clearing the pathway between the belly and the heart, working along your spine, working, you know, with different breath techniques for the belly, heart opening techniques for the chest. And when you have those two seats of intuition open, they activate, and then we can get quiet enough to hear them. So first it's getting all the chatter and the noise of other people and like comparing and judging and all those things out so that we can get quiet enough and just listen to what we actually need. You know, I did Hoffman process. Are you familiar with that? I'm sure you are. Yeah. In your work, of course. And one of the things they teach you is to do a quadrinity check. And this is very helpful. You separate the parts of you into different segments. You have your physical body, you have your emotional body, which is like your 3-year-old child. You have your intellectual body, which is like your left brain, your thinking brain. And then you have your spirit body. They also take it a step further and do the guide, the soul guide. But I like those 4. And so when you can check in with each of those 4 parts of yourself on a daily basis and ask what you need and then promise that you'll satisfy that need, then you can start to have a little bit of self-love. Because you're acknowledging a need within the body or the soul or the emotion or the intellect, and then you're satisfying that need. So that's already loving yourself. You know, you're doing something for yourself on a daily basis. Even just asking the question is important and makes you feel worthy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And that it doesn't have to be, what I'm hearing through what you're saying, Caley, is it doesn't have to be some huge, long practice. It doesn't have to be something that totally transforms you in that initial instant, but that it can be this seemingly small self-inquiry question, this a few minutes of really clearing space, of tuning into yourself. And then, you know, what I tell my students is that it's cumulative, right?
Yes.
Once you begin doing it little by little, the practices build on one another. And then that, I love your verbiage around it, that intuitive, those 2 intuitive centers, they really begin to open up and connect with one another. Because you know, a big part of your story resonates with me because I was in a marriage that was completely misaligned for a long time, you know, about, we were married, I guess, for almost 8 years and together for 11 or 12 years. And that was the primary piece of it, was that pathway, even though I was reading tons of books on meditation, I was, you know, doing some trainings, I was kind of cognitively taking in the knowledge. It wasn't until I started a dedicated meditation practice and yoga practice where that pathway began to open up. And I was like, wow, how humbling is it to see how much you're betraying yourself in some of your choices, but also the soul part of you is speaking as you're exploring some of these pieces of work. It's pretty amazing how we can compartmentalize. And I'm sure some people tuning in can identify with that too.
Anybody out there?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, full on.
All of it.
I didn't know your marriage was that long. I wasn't aware of that. That's a big chunk of time.
It's
definitely.
Time. And it's interesting too. It's like so purposeful, right? Those people arise to teach you things, and I was really shown how much I was denying my truth and my needs in service of, you know, what I felt like should have been the case or should have happened. And the people pleasing part of me needed a lot of care. The inner wounded child needed a lot of work. So, you know, what you're saying is this practice of tuning in to who it is you are. So we have Lyndon here, not marriage, but the same idea with my career path. Yes. Yeah. So my dear friend Lyndon, she owns a wellness travel business called Pravasa. And I think this this can be applied to
Oh,
any
yeah.
relationship we have, whether it's we're birthing a business, we are in a relationship, we're connected to a city. It's all about tuning into ourself in order to align our internal world with our external through choices. But
Yeah.
it's not always easy, is it?
It's a reflection, if you don't have self-love, that's reflected in your external world. That's reflected in your business and your career path and your how much money you make. Part of what I work on with the women in the mentorship program is a connection between their sacral chakra and their finances.
Right.
And when we're embodied and when we're in our feminine power and when we have that worth and that love, you make way more money because
Yes.
you know your worth and you can say your worth and you believe it, and then people are on board for that. So
Right.
yeah, 1,000,000%.
I love that. And that relates to the panel that Kayla and I spoke on female sexuality. So tell me, how does that particular work, especially of the first and second chakra, like how does that get woven into what you're sharing with the world?
Yeah,
Because I
well,
think
this
this is
is
an important one, especially for women.
it is
Yeah.
absolutely, and it's been a huge part of my path. Again, I was in a relationship for 15 years, from when I was 14 to when I was 26. First and only partner, and then I moved to LA and became single all of a sudden. So you can only imagine, and during my Saturn return and just all these things, sex and relationship and love and all of that just commingled, and I learned so many lessons. And sex can be, especially for women, we can use our femininity in a very manipulative way, or we can use our femininity in a very authentic and powerful way. And there's a fine line that we walk there, as there is with anything, like in relationship, there's a fine line, whether we're walking the line of being a mother or being a partner. And so sexuality in general is something that can become very powerful. And if we're not embodied sexually, there's a block somewhere, and that energy is not freely moving through us. And I was just talking to my girlfriend about this last week. We went on a hike together, and she's very successful. She's a writer for a very an amazing TV network, and but wants to be in movie and film, and she's afraid to take the leap, even though she's one of the highest paid writers. She's the most successful in the business. She's brilliant mind, brilliant. She has this disconnect with her sacral chakra. She doesn't believe in herself. She's not embodied in her feminine energy or power, and that's reflected when you look at her relationships. She's unsatisfied. She holds back. She's afraid to give too much, or if she gives too much, it's then it's this whole play and this whole theater that's not authentic. And so, as women, either we're masturbating, or we're having regular sex with a partner, or we're just in a place where we feel aligned sexually, and that can be very, very powerful.
Yes. And that area, there's so much shame. So yeah, when I work with women in that area, what inevitably comes up is so much shame around sex and all of those layers of stories, right, that we take on, whether it's society that's telling us to look sexy but don't be a slut, or whatever the message is, like from the media or families or culturally. That's a huge piece of our work. And I think if we're dedicated to our inner work and this path of personal growth or spiritual awakening, however we want to say it, to name it, like really working with our sexual energy is such an integral piece of this. And I think that's one of the many things I loved about meeting you and connecting with your work, Caley, is that you bring that in this very authentic but kind of unapologetic way at the same time. And I think we need to, especially as women, to really have the courage to dive into the shame-based places in order to excavate that powerful energy that we all possess, because absolutely it's connected to money, it's connected to relationships, and we need to really see what's happening and see it in order to shift it and to heal it. So
thank you. I think you touched on authenticity, and that can be, but if you're authentic with it, like if you look at my social media, sometimes I feel really sexy and I'll put like a nude Jasper Joel yoga photo up there and I'm feeling good, and other times I'm like, I got my business mentor hat and I'm feeling a little bit more prim and proper and I want to be in that space. And so as women, we get to do that. That's our prerogative. We can be sultry when we want to be. We can be demure when we want to be. You know, it's a part of being a woman. And that's authentic to us. You know, we can change our mind and we can change how we're feeling all the time. It doesn't always have to be the slut. It doesn't always have to be the martyr or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally. And I think that's part of what, I mean, even social media can be really powerful in self-expression. I'll say, like, some of your amazing imagery has really inspired me to embody my like sexual feminine power in different ways, because quite honestly, like I feel, you know, even as someone who's been doing this work for a long time, like that kind of female Asian lineage, that energy of staying small and not taking up space and being more quiet and being, you know, polite and not ruffling feathers. Like I can still feel the tentacles of that. So thank you for your invitation to continue to embody all of those pieces.
More, please. Yeah, I love it. You're gorgeous. Your energy is beautiful. It's pure. It's authentic. Yeah, more of that.
Thank you. Oh, watch out, world. So curious, because we've been kind of touching on relationship stuff, which inevitably gets touched on when we're talking about love and self-love, right?
Yeah.
So what were some moments for you on your own journey that you can perhaps connect with and share with people tuning in that helped you to really excavate the self-love that you needed, or that was always there, but not necessarily you were conscious of it at the time?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm a Scorpio, so I like to learn my lessons in a very dramatic way.
Right.
And over again, many times. Yeah, I think that, like I said, for a while I was in a relationship where a lot of the beginning part of it was sort of a punishment towards myself. I stepped out of my marriage. I cheated on my husband, of my partner of 15 years, my high school sweetheart, and I had a lot of shame around that. And I instead of dating someone who would have been a better fit for me, I chose someone who was sort of the opposite of my partner, and who was kind of the bad boy and, you know, Mr. LA, and I allowed a lot of behavior that I knew was happening on a deep level. I wasn't verbally confirmed, but I knew. And I allowed that because I felt like I needed to punish myself. I needed to have that experience. I had no self-love for myself. And I let this go on for a very long time. And part of that reason is because I lost my intuition. I would second guess things. I would wonder, did that really happen or did that not? And then I would be given sort of partial truths. So then I'd kind of believe that I was right, but then I'd be like, oh, I wasn't quite ready. You know, my intuition's a little off there. And so I started to disbelieve in myself, and I I couldn't hear. I lost my intuition. And when I would break up with this person and create space between he and I would find it quick, like fast and fierce, it would come back. And then I'd get back into relationship with him again, and it would be muffled, you know? And so it was this dance of like, ooh, here it is, and then nope. And it's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And eventually I got to the place where it was so strong. I was not ignoring it. I couldn't any longer. And I was done punishing myself. And I knew that. And in retrospect, I could see what I had done. But it took me some time to get to that place. It really did. I think part of that was exploring sexually and dating in LA, and, you know, having an attachment to a person as like a safety after my relationship. But yeah, really it was about learning that I no longer needed to punish myself, that I never really did. And how to respect myself through hearing my intuition's needs and wants.
Which is such a journey, right? And sometimes, yes, thank you for prefacing with the Scorpio. I'm sure I can really understand that dynamic, right? But yeah, it's like sometimes something really dramatic needs to happen in order to wake us up to what we're choosing, and the patterns in which we're allowing to move through us. And that through, it's like the grit makes the pearl, right? Through that, through the irritation, through the rubbing, through the conflict, we can.
Oh,
really,
yeah.
It's like, you know, inevitably. And I think all the wisdom teachings really speak to that in different ways. So thank you for sharing that part of your journey, because that's the realness of our human condition, is change is such an inevitable piece, but if we can lean into it with courage, and if we can really turn inward and understand what lessons we're meant to learn, us to reconnect with that self-love, and that intuition, which obviously go hand in hand.
Yeah, and that can be scary. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
we get pushed and we have to, and sometimes we got to jump, and the jump
Mhm.
is scary.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. So, speaking of being scary, how would you describe how you personally work with fear? Because I think it's important to shine a light on the fact that fear is an experience that we're meant to host, that we're meant to move through and lean into in order to expand on the other side to more alignment, perhaps more self-love. So, how have you been able to lean into that fear for yourself?
I, in the past, acquired a habit from my parents, my father, that when something bad happens, I just leave. I run, I walk out, I do whatever. I don't confront it. In a fight with a partner, I'm like, I'm out. I'll be back in a day or two.
Peace out.
Yeah. So that was how I used to deal with fear. I've done a lot of work in the past few years, and in fact, I last night I stepped into fear just last night. I could tell that something was off with my partner, and I grabbed a pen and paper and I sat down and I said, hey, why don't you just go ahead and talk, and I'm going to write, and I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to listen and write everything that you say down. And so he talked for about 20 or 30 minutes and I just wrote. And after that, we didn't really need to talk about anything because he got it all out. And I was afraid to do that because I knew that some of the things he said were going to be triggering for me. And you know what? I put on my curiosity glasses and I put myself in his shoes and I just had sympathy for him. And when he got to the end, I read everything that he said back. And even though that was scary, even though I knew there were things that, you know, I wanted to like fight back on or be defensive, that's my, you know, #human thing. It's like, I get defensive when I'm activated. And so I'm learning now more and more that if I can step into fear, it prevents the big explosions down the road. If I can lean into things like this last night, this example with my partner, that prevents something worse happening way further down the path. So I'm starting to be like, okay, here's a fear. Can I just like, you know, like take the punch and go in for a hug? Can I do that? And am I going to be okay after that? Yeah, I will. So slowly but surely, I try to lean into it. I'm quite the charger. I like to approach things head on, you know, but I'm human, so I do get scared. But I'm getting much better at that.
That's so beautiful and inspiring to hear just that example. So super recent example of you choosing to host the fear and being present with your partner, even though it may have felt uncomfortable in different ways. And I love that, and how self-love can really be birthed in the interpersonal interaction is incredibly powerful. How do you continue to connect with your partner in that relationship dynamic while continuing to honor your truth and practice self-love on a day-to-day basis? Because I think that's an interesting navigation. I have a lot of clients and students who are always asking, like, how do I preserve what I need and my truth and my rhythm in the midst of another human being who I love deeply, but who I find myself, whatever it is, getting enmeshed into or getting lost in, especially during this time in quarantine where we're together more.
That's such a good question. It's so layered, and I love that you asked it. And I love how you asked it. Yeah, I mean, even taking last night for example, I didn't have my my needs and wants and thoughts expressed, and someone scribing them down and reflecting them back to me.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, I want that. We all want that, and all relationships, you know, should have equal communication. But there does come a point in time when you can see that someone else needs something more than you in that moment, and to be compassionate towards that, because what would you want if you were in their shoes? And so, yeah, while I feel unexpressed, you know, or in certain ways, I also feel really good because I know that he needed that last night, and I know that I was there, and it brought us closer together. And I know that I'll have my turn. You know, if I need to be heard and if I need to express myself, then I will have that. But, you know, there's also that I, I understand, because I used to get very lost in partnership. I was very codependent in my last relationship. And I would put that above anything. I would put that above my business, the success of my business, his wants and needs. And it was my fault. And so I think what it is learning to create boundaries, learning what your limit, what your line is. Like, okay, I'm not crossing that. You can't cross that either. This is my line. And once that's hit, then no, you know, and you're the one that has to create those boundaries, and you're the one that has to enforce them. No one's going to do that for you. And so it's taking personal responsibility and accountability for where you are in relationship, and for how you've, you know, if you are feeling unexpressed, or if you're feeling is my video still going?
You are, I can hear you, but your video's frozen.
Oh.
So
That's so strange. I'm not sure why it's frozen. I can hear you as well. Let me try to flip.
Okay.
Or
we can hear you. You can just continue.
You can look at my frozen face.
I know.
I don't know what's going on.
The beautiful mandala behind you.
But yeah, you know, being I think it's that container. It's creating your boundaries, creating your limits, enforcing those limits, because that's respect for yourself, and your partner will respect you more. And then you will have that feeling of equanimity and balance and expression on both parts of in partnership.
So beautiful, the equanimity. And what's coming up for me as you're talking, Caley, is the idea of reciprocity, sacred reciprocity, and what the Peruvian shamans call Aini, this like constant ebb and flow that every system is always attempting to journey back to balance. And that you chose that reciprocity in the moment with your partner last night, even though in that particular moment you were really meeting him and he was the one emoting and sharing as you empathically listened. But that there's it's like this deeper knowing that we will get that in return, because we're showing up authentically to provide that sacred space in the moment. And that is, I feel like it's such a challenging but powerful lesson for us as humans, is to be so aware when the ego rears its head, so we can maybe step back, create spaciousness, and choose differently in the moment. And damn, that's a lifelong practice.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, goodness.
So what are you feeling like jazzed about in your current practice as you continue your learning and your connection with higher self and the essence of your soul? What feels good for you right now?
That's also a great question. Nidra has been a big part of my practice lately. Yoga Nidra is really becoming a big part of what I'm teaching and a big part of my life in general. And beyond Nidra, the one thing actually that I've acquired lately that's also really becoming spiritual for me is surfing. I never thought I would say that, but being my partner's a big surfer, and I've been going with him 3 to 4 times a week, and it's become just a really amazing augmentation of my spiritual practice. But yeah, I think those 2 things are the most important. And, you know, Nidra is something that I don't do every night. I probably do, again, like 3 to 4 times a week, maybe. And it's just really powerful. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something about it that just really suits me in my practice well and keeps me inspired.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I learned Yoga Nidra through a teacher. Her name's Amy Weintraub. She's the founder of Life Force Yoga.
Okay.
And she was like kind of my entry point into Nidra, and I love Nidra. I think it's such a powerful practice. It's something that I practice for myself and teach to students. Can you share more about what Nidra is and how it works and how it's impactful for people?
Yeah, great. So what Nidra does is it takes your, it basically resets your nervous system. So it puts you into a very relaxed state through a very strategic methodology. You're actually working through the koshas of the body in Nidra. And so at one point you're doing a physical rotation of consciousness. And it's really cool because in the rotation of consciousness, you focus on areas that have more nerve endings in them for longer. So for instance, the thumb or the mouth, these parts of the body that are, much more innervated. And in doing so, you also do the right side of the body and the left side of the body. So the different hemispheres of the brain, you're corresponding to the right and the left side. And what this does is it just completely resets the nervous system. It calms the body and puts you into such a deep trance state. And actually, nidra, yoga nidra means yogic sleep, but sleep is sort of a misnomer because you don't want to fall asleep during the practice. You actually want to teeter on that border of sleeping state and waking state. And you're kind of just like weaving between the two and dancing on that edge the whole time. And that twilight space. And that's like what Joe Dispenza refers to as the blackness. That's the infinite space, the void where anything and everything is possible. That's where we can access any frequency we want, any energetic frequency, and bring it into our third dimensional reality. So yeah, there's a method to the madness, and Nidra is actually very strategic, and I highly recommend practicing with someone trained in Nidra. And if you find someone that's never trained in it, it's a pretty involved practice. I mean, these take me hours to write. They're like my babies.
Yes.
And and then there's also this idea of sankalpa in a yoga nidra, and it's similar to intention in yoga, but the difference is that a sankalpa is you're taking your heart's most urgent and profound need. You're taking something that like you really need to work on, something you've been stuck on or whatever it is, and you're transforming it into a statement that's positive and present moment, like it's already happened. So for instance, if I say I was struggling with coronavirus and feeling really sick and ill, maybe my sankalpa would be, I am healed. And so I frame it as if it's already so, and that sankalpa is woven in at the beginning of the practice and at the end of the practice, and it's that tool for transformation. It's very powerful.
I love that. Yes, Sankalpa. I work with Sankalpa every morning. So thank you for bringing that up and giving such a beautiful definition of what that is and how people can use it. And you said something that really jumped out, Caley, and that was that it's present, that it's already happening, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Sankalpa it's happening now, and then we bring that into this present moment in an incredibly intentional way in service of our healing, but that it's not something in the future that we're grasping at. It's happening now.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. So speaking of practice and yoga nidra, I would be so honored if you would guide us into a short practice so we can experience some of your work and all get Zen together.
Okay, there we go.
You are. I know.
Yeah.
I was missing you. So actually, I'm little self-disclosure here. I'm in Florida because we took a little road trip. We were feeling like the need for ocean energy for healing. So we're here for the next week. So I don't have my normal therapy clock behind us. What time is it on your end?
It is 3:39.
Okay, perfect. So we have plenty of time and we can answer some questions at the end.
Cool.
So yeah, let's go into a delicious practice.
Okay. And how long do we have for the meditation?
So we have about 15 minutes or so.
Then we'll okay, so we'll do a little short, abbreviated, kind of a taste of nidra, I guess. But we'll blend this in. We'll blend this into the nidra that I did yesterday. It's got a little Hoffman in there. It's got a little everything. So this should be awesome. Good. Okay, so you can sit up or you can lay down. If you're at home and you want to lie down, great. Make sure the back of your head is comfy and your body feels supported. And then just go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep inhale in. And exhale out. We'll do that 2 more times. Breathe in. And breathe out. And once more, breathe in. And breathe out. And so taking a few moments to allow the body to breathe all on its own without your control. and becoming aware of your body's breathing experience. And as you do this, you can notice little sensations that accompany the body breathing. Feeling the little hairs on your upper lip move as you inhale and exhale. You might feel coolness or moisture in the nostrils. You might feel tingling in the throat, or the beat of the heart as you breathe. So observing what's present without judging or dissecting it in any way. Just being a scientist and taking note of all of the sensations that you're able to sense. And then can you tap into your whole entire body, a whole physical container, and can you ask your body what it might need from you today? And just listen and breathe and allow however that shows up to form organically. And once you have the body's needs, just acknowledging them. And we'll move from this external physical shell, the container of the body, a little deeper, accessing the heart space and the emotional and intuitive body. And can you take inventory of your emotional state in this moment? And can you ask your emotional body what needs it has from you today? And this can be something as simple as a long hug from a friend or a partner. Just listen and breathe and acknowledge whatever comes up from your emotional body. And then can you travel from your heart up into your brain? And in your brain, can you take a moment to access your intellect, your thinking body? And as you do, can you ask your thinking body what it might need from you today? Does it need to be stimulated and challenged? Does it need to veg out and take a break? Listening and breathing to your intellect. And acknowledging whatever comes up for you. And then within your brain, can you locate your pineal gland? A tiny pine cone shaped gland in the very back of the brain between your two ventricles. And as you access this gland, can you visualize it sitting there in your brain like a tiny pine cone covered with little glass crystals? And each of these crystals has the potential to create a magnetic field within the brain. And can you let your awareness rest here on your pineal gland as you access your soul body? And as you tap into this soul body, can you ask it to deliver a message to you? This message could be simple and functional. It could be deeper and more urgent. Can your soul body share with you whatever its most urgent and profound need is in this moment? Does it long to be loved? Does it long to be financially abundant? Does it long for stability? Whatever message comes up for you, can you reframe that into a positive and present moment statement? Like, I am loved. I am financially abundant. I have stability. I am stable. Something like this. And once you have your vow, your creation statement, your sankalpa, silently, with great emotion, repeat it to yourself 3 times. And as you do, can you feel your sankalpa expanding from the inside of your body out? Almost like the pulse of the heart amplifies its expansion, like ripples in a lake. Can you feel this statement attuning every single cell to the frequency of transformation? And as the heart continues to beat and pulse your sankalpa out, can you feel it permeate beyond the boundaries of your physical container and into the space around you? Can you sense the expansion into the space around you from the inside out? And does this sankalpa have a color or a shape to it? And can you sense that color like a little orb surrounding your physical body? Each pulse and each beat of the heart reinforces this little circular, energetic structure. Becomes more powerful, and it expands. So for a moment, can you see how expansive this energy can be? How far it can reach? How big can you get? Every beat of the heart amplifies that expansion. And then can you allow your heart to start to call your energy back to that little sphere around your body, that protective shield. And this energy, can you draw directly back into the center of your chest, right into your heart? And can you feel it land within that space? And as you do, can you sit up a little bit taller, embodying your creation statement, this frequency, this specific frequency of transformation that you've called in. And feel that like an unending stream from the energetic realm into our third dimensional realm and right into your heart space. From here, slowly bring your hands directly in front of the heart. Right palm touches the left palm. Bow your chin down into your chest. And take a moment to acknowledge the gentle hum of your nervous system. And acknowledge the quality of your mind. And when you're ready, slowly start to blink your eyes to open. And come back into your space. Welcome back. Namaste.
Namaste. Wow. Thank you. That was such a gift. Yes. Still coming back.
Take your time. Yes, when you get really expansive, it takes a minute to bring it back in. It's like a genie out of a bottle.
It is. In the best way.
Yeah.
You're such a gifted teacher. The way that you teach really, it feels very multidimensional.
Thank you.
In a way that you can get there so quickly.
Glad you got there.
Yeah. Beyond the thinking mind. Thank you so much. So I know we probably only have just a few minutes here. So we're going to pop everyone back into their prefrontal cortex for a few minutes.
Tapping helps.
Tapping, yeah. So if anyone has any questions, we probably have time for one or two, and then we'll transition out.
Thank you so much. This has been beautiful. Really a treat.
It's been such a gift, so special. Yeah, it's really fun to connect in this way. I'm grateful that technology is here for us to do that. And
oh, cool, right?
To allow us to share this work. And that was, meditation, medicine, this whole idea of sharing this type of medicine came through during quarantine. And it's like, why not just create more ways that people can connect with the practice and really see meditation, all those different doors, right? Because every teacher has their own medicine, and we need more people sharing their medicine with humanity, with this planet. So thank you for doing that work and helping to cultivate teachers and leaders.
Thank you for putting this out there. It's so beautiful, and that you're doing this on IG Live, and people have access to this for free, and it's really beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's just close on out with one intention. So what is an intention you're bringing into your own journey, whether it was birthed out of this time of uncertainty or something you've been working with?
Yeah, well, I started working with my own business mentor and coach who's been in my sphere of influence for a long time, and I've always wanted to work with her. And I've never really invested in myself and in my business in that way. And so that's My intention is expansion. I've hit some ceilings in my life and in my structured belief system that I'm ready to bust through, and so expansion all the way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What's yours?
Mine is this whole like intention, the sense of limitlessness in all ways, and like questioning everything, questioning all the beliefs that arise, the actions, just having the wise seeing around those thoughts and actions and words. And so I'm just in a, like, use the word curious, and I'm just in this really like curious observation mode of all the things that I say and do, and really moving past them to embrace that limitlessness. So that has felt very resonant for me at this time.
Awesome.
So we had one question from Jackie. For beginners, what are some resources, Caley, for Yoga Nidra?
Great question. Insight Timer has some really some shorter ones, some free ones. Richard Miller, he's one of the OG Yoga Nidra teachers. He's incredible. So you can access that. I record my nidras and I put them on my website, so you can download them. Every week I record a new one and put it up there. And they're about 45 minutes to an hour, so you just lay down and listen. That's the cool thing about nidras. There's no barrier to entry. You just have to listen. So really it's all levels. It's all beginners are welcome, and it's easy to access. I also have some shorter nidras, like 15 to 30 minute ones on Allo Moves platform. And then my teacher, Jana Rammer, she does Astro Nidras, and she's who I learned from. She's an incredible resource as well. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. So I'll add to that. So one of my teachers, Amy Weintraub, who I mentioned, she studied with Richard Miller. And so she has 2 books that are really wonderful. And I believe she has some Yoga Nidras online. The books are Yoga Skills for Therapists and Yoga for Depression. So she's very much in that like mental health intersection of yoga and mental health. So you can check her out too.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and I wish I could hug you through this phone.
I know.
I'll give you an air kiss instead.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you again.
Awesome. So for those of you tuning in, this will be posted later this week. So you can tune in to the full program if you didn't get it all. And I hope to see you next week on Meditation Medicine for another wonderful discussion style workshop. Much love to everybody. Mwah. Take care.
Bye.